What's up, everybody? It's Greg with Delta, and this is the Be the Difference podcast. This podcast is all about making you a better person in your life and in your business with coaching on sales, leadership, mindset, marketing, everything under the sun when it comes to being an entrepreneur. And we bring on guest speakers. Today, I get the honor and pleasure of welcoming Mr. Clifton Savage. Clifton, I love that last name,
I know.
Savage.
Got it before it became cool, right?
I know, right? How are you doing today, Cliff?
I'm doing great. How about
Do
you,
you go by
Greg?
Cliff or do you go by Clifton?
Now I'd say Cliff because I've got a son and his name's Clifton also.
Okay.
But yeah, it's just easier. Everyone calls me Clifton. They just call me whatever they want, but we'll just go with Cliff.
Now, is your son
Differentiate.
a junior, the second, the third?
So he's got a different middle name,
Okay.
so we kind of screwed it up. But yeah,
I have a junior, so my son,
perfect.
which is weird now because we just called him Junior, and I've always gone by Greg.
Yeah,
And then he's now 13, and he wants to be called Greg too. And so, we'll be out and about like with his friends, and his friends will say like Greg, and I'll look at like, yeah, what's up? It's so weird that they're talking to my son because I'm like, man, I got to used to like because I still call him Junior.
hmm
He's like, call me Greg. I'm like, no, you're Junior to me, buddy. Like,
I've been
sorry.
able to differentiate because when people say Clifton, I know they're not talking to me. They're
Yeah,
talking to him because he's 4 right now. He's growing up. They're talking more sweet to him.
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
"Hey, Cliff." Oh, yeah, that's fine.
It's like, oh, they're talking to, hey, Cliff.
Oh,
That's
they
me.
need me.
I love it. I love it. So, for those of you that don't know who Clifton Savage is, his life mission is to continually understand problems on a holistic level, share that with his audience, and then seek to solve the root cause of problems and share it with as many people as he can. His mindset is one, serving others first, two, continually seeking improvement in himself, his processes, and encouraging those around him to do the same by leading by example. And while he's run many businesses over the years and pursued many industries, he settled into the space to equip leaders to develop leaders beneath them and around them for sustainability, profitability, and multiplication. His daily focus is his faith, his family, and his service towards others. He seeks to continually put himself out of the job and find new areas to work and to improve while leaving a sustainable path of success behind him in the lives of others around him, whether it's clients, colleagues, employees, or friends. I love everything that you're talking about. And I want to dig into some of this holistic level that you're working on. Like it sounds like holistic level leadership, faith, service. So to get started, tell us how did you get to where you are now? What's the journey?
Yeah, I mean, I would have to say, like, the real in terms of holistics, right, and holistic troubleshooting and getting to the root cause of problems.
Mm,
I got the first real life experience of that dealing with a lot of health issues back when I was even just getting into high school. Just all of a sudden, out of the blue, I was having these massive like skin issues where everything, my hands, my arms would get really dry, and I
mm,
just scratch and scratch and scratch while I was in my sleep. And it got so bad. I mean, it was like third degrees level worth of skin being scratched off, is what they said. Like so, like third degree burns. That's like to the level of which I just couldn't stop. I mean, we covered my hands up, we covered my face up, everything, and we just
and that
couldn't
was in
figure
high
it out.
school.
Yep, just
Man,
getting into high school.
as a teenager going through
Yep,
puberty, that must have been
getting into
made
freshman
you
year.
very self-conscious.
Yep. Oh yeah, and it was like, what do? You got these bloody, gory hands and arms and face.
Yeah.
What you cover them up, or you wear gloves. People think you're trying to mimic Michael Jackson or something like that, and
Yeah.
you don't know if it's like you're just trying to act out, and it's like, no, I'm just trying to survive.
Uh-huh. That must have been very difficult. I can only imagine what that was like, you know. How did you overcome that and deal with that?
Yep. Well, that was the beauty of it, right? Because first we started going to our PCP, doctors, dermatologists, and everyone's like, "Well, you have dry skin," and I'm like, "Yeah, no, duh, I know that. That's not a lotion is not going to solve my problem because a lotion isn't causing the problem. It's not dry skin that's causing the problem
Mm.
because it just came out of nowhere. But it was really like a digestive issue, come to find out. But we didn't learn that for years. But my mother took me to a holistic doctor, someone that was able to look at things from a different perspective, outside of what everyone else is trying to just think. pull up their medical book and say, "Oh, it's probably this, probably that," and just throw a pill at it, throw a lotion at it, right? And this holistic doctor just gave me a whole nother perspective on how to look at things, how to break down symptoms and get to like the true root cause, and start eliminating things, right, that are negative for me.
Hmm.
It was diet, but it also dealt with things like dust and even dog hair and things like that that I wasn't allergic to before, but now I was. Can't figure out why, but now we know what to avoid, and it just kind of took off from there, starting to look at things in a whole new perspective.
Oh wow! The first time you went to this holistic doctor, what did you think?
Yeah, I was skeptical, man. I mean, you got to think any of this stuff that we're trained, right? We're trained to go to a doctor, to get on a pill, to fall, what our government tells us to do, or what our teachers tell us to do, or our boss tells us to do, and
Yeah,
not think outside of the box, and not think for ourselves, and dig deeper for like different answers. There's
yeah.
got to be a different answer. There's got to be a different way. And so I was very skeptical at first, but you got to kind of take the steps and have faith. And if it works, it works. And if it doesn't, you try something else. And fortunately, it worked.
How many doctors had you been to up to this point before going to this holistic doctor?
At least five.
At least 5. So,
At
yeah,
least.
you've gone to these different doctors. They're throwing lotions and pills at you. It's not working, and you're just like, "Dude, I'm skeptical, but I'm willing to try anything."
Yep. Yes.
Like, just
The blood, taking the blood test and doing all this, the poking me with needles. Yeah. It's awful.
yeah, that's crazy, man. After you saw that holistic doctor, how long did it take before you started seeing results and changes?
I mean, within like 3 months, I think back when I look back at those like, dietary journals and, taking note of where I was at before that,
Mhm,
eliminating the foods, getting away from certain allergens, doing the best we could, hypoallergenic, dust free, all that kind of stuff.
mhm,
I started seeing progress, where things kind of subsided within 3 months and really started seeing change, 6, 9 months down the road. And, a year, 2, 3 years later, sticking with it, I could see the change. But if I was like, I can eat this, it's no problem. It's been a while. I'd go right back to where I was.
wow, wow, and I wanna sit in camp here for a second on
Yeah.
dietary stuff.
Yeah.
Um, and I think that the dietary, or diets as a whole,
Yep.
and diet's a four-letter word for most people, right?
Yeah.
It's just like it's very restrictive, right?
Yeah.
Whereas, what I'm saying is just taking accountability of the things you put in your mouth, period, right?
Exactly.
So, um when you got that assessment from the holistic doctor when it came to your dietary needs, kind of talk through that in detail. What were the things that you were eating? What were the things that he replaced it with? And how did that over time affect you?
Yeah. So some of the biggest stuff was for me, was dairy
Mhm,
was an issue. I came to learn that, products that were gluten, if you will, didn't really have celiac disease, not like diagnosed celiac disease. But the way my gut was working, it just didn't have the enzymes to break this stuff down anymore. And so it started to just coming out by aggravating the skin and drying out the skin. It just didn't have, really anywhere else to go.
mhm.
Um, there's a lot of foods in my diet, if I can go back on the list, that could agitate that, even fruits and vegetables. And I know it's like pumpkin seeds and, different types of seasonings. Just, certain things the body just didn't want to process properly. And so it did what it thought it could do. And it just kind of went out through my skin instead. And it caused the irritation.
Okay. And how did was there anything that you had to start eating that he was like, "Hey, you need to start putting more of this in your body, or this is the kind of foods that your body is primed for or will help to heal?"
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely foods that'll help your body work more efficiently, right?
Mhm,
Foods that are better digestive aids,
mhm,
foods that are going to help you metabolize more efficiently. So there's definitely foods like that. I mean, going back to that, a lot of, for all of us, especially Americans, right? More greens in your diet.
yeah,
Getting away from the heavy fried foods and fatty foods and processed oils, and getting towards, more fruits and more vegetables, healthier grains. I even learned though too with my blood type and dealing with hypoglycemia, dealing with foods that were spiking my blood sugar. were causing issues with what I craved, and that would affect my diet and my digestion as well. So it was a couple battles going on that I had to get them to work along and play along nicely together.
And do you? I assume that since you help people like on a holistic level and help people solve their problems, I assume that a lot of it is helping people through their diet as well, and like
Oh,
getting the right foods and
yeah. I mean, it's really cool. I mean, I deal with a lot of business leaders, if you will. That's
mm,
usually where I come in. The root cause is typically the one that has the most influence in the business and the decisions they make. So that's where we start. But anybody, middle management, frontline, you're going to deal with that, right? That's a part of life. And and I look at it like mind, body, and spirit. All three play a key role in your
they're just
your
interconnected.
performance. Yeah, and it affects how you show up at work and how you act at work, and
Yeah.
it affects the people around you, whether we like it or not. And so, yes, we that topic comes up often.
Yeah, I speak often on the concept that how intricately connected your mind, body, spirit are, right? And
Oh yeah,
if you leave any of them behind and don't focus on it, if you're not growing, it's just like everyone's a living organism, and any
mm,
living organism not growing, it's dying, and that's no different for us. And if you don't focus on trying to grow, even if it's the smallest, tiniest bit, right? You're
yeah,
trying to slowly increase, but if you don't want to increase any one of those 3, it is getting worse. It is dying, quote unquote. And it becomes an anchor to the other 2,
mm, yeah,
right? So if
yep,
you're focused on your spirituality and you're focused on your mental side, but you're completely letting go of your physical side, I promise you, you're not hitting the level of spiritualness that you could had you also be working on your physical side
yep,
as well, right?
yeah, exactly.
It just doesn't it can't be done. So I love that you help and you assess these leaders and these businesses that through that lens.
Yes.
It's also, I was talking to a person yesterday in a podcast I was running on, and he was talking about how there's almost this idea that you have to be different at work than you do at home.
Mm,
It's almost like 2
yeah.
different people, right?
Hmm.
It's like, you shouldn't. It's you. You should be this. You should treat your people at work the same way you do your family at home.
Yep.
You should lead with the same kind of authenticity, the same love. We're talking more on leadership, but this
Right.
concept also applies. You know, if your home life's a mess and it's just in shambles and you don't want to be at home, you're trying to avoid it and you're just throwing yourself into work,
Yeah.
your work's not going to be as good as it could be if your home life is also well balanced.
Yes.
you know
Absolutely.
I completely agree with that. So talk a little bit about how you got into, even how did you make that leap from this kid that finds out about your mind is open into the world of holistic
Yep.
healing, right? And where did you take it from there?
Oh man. Well, I mean, I would have to say, Greg, that I had a lot of other challenges in life dealing with health that came about, but obviously getting through the high school years, right? You're starting to think about college. You're starting to think about a career. And for me, I growing up since I was 2 years old, I knew about life outside of just being an employee because my father had started his own business, went off on his own right before my brother and I were born. We're twins, and he decided that to make more than just ends meet, to afford the life that he wants for his family, his growing family, he had to be in control and he had to go off on his own. And so from there, I always knew about a life as being your own boss, being in business for yourself, kind of blazing a trail.
Mm,
And so going through high school, I wasn't stuck to just, oh, you have to go to school get a degree to get into this company, right? You can go explore and test out and see what you want to do and explore your strengths, your weaknesses, un- tap into things you've never even knew were there, right?
fail, try again.
Yeah, exactly. It's an adventure, and so it's not this like straightforward path.
Mhm.
So for me, it was really an opportunity. I was like, I don't know what I want to do, but I don't want to just go straight to school and get into debt and not have work experience and still no clue of what I'm going to do when I get out of college.
Mhm.
You know, but I value the education. I still was getting a degree. It was just at night. So I had a great opportunity to get into work straight out of high school. That kind of led into the next opportunity of like my first big boy job, if you will, right? Was working at a company with Canon, like the cameras and the printers and everything, but it's a local subsidiary in Virginia, in a brand new plant they were building. I mean, walking in the room, there's nothing but walls and floors and nothing else. No machines, no nothing, right? Literally on the ground floor. That experience right there really put in me this idea of, well, we're starting from scratch, but pretty much after day two, right, there's problems.
Mm,
And there's problems that I'm like, well, why aren't we solving them? Why are we just kind of moving on, right? We're kind of pushing through the pain, pushing through the discomfort, pushing through the inefficiencies. I'm like, well, why aren't we solving this? And as I learned, the couple of jobs I had, the couple of companies I worked for, I just felt like people weren't as passionate about being mindful of the problems, mindful of the inefficiencies,
mm.
and actually speaking up and doing something about it. And so that kind of sparked the flame in me, I guess, of getting into these like holistic assessments and helping leaders be better leaders and um, run companies that are more efficient. It's just that's where it kind of all started.
Nice, nice. And how long were you there for?
So I was there for about 5 years, and then I
Okay.
said, you know what? Let me get out of Virginia. Let me get out of the state. Just throw myself into a deep ocean and try and figure things out. And actually moved out to Kentucky for a while
What part of
to
Kentucky?
Frankfurt,
Okay. All right.
so near Lexington.
Yeah,
But
I know your area.
okay. And so you from around there, or you just live
I
there?
I I was born and raised in Clarksville.
Oh,
It's on the border of Kentucky, the Kentucky-Tennessee border,
uh huh.
and so I spent a lot of time I used to have a house in Radcliffe, Kentucky.
Okay.
Yeah,
It's
I
Kentucky
was
is a gorgeous state. It was
yeah,
different. It was
yeah,
the farthest west I had been at that time in my life. And then, but briefly after that, I moved to North Carolina,
okay.
in the Hillsborough area. So I've been through Tennessee as well to get to get there.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great part of the country. I used to tease people when they come to visit me when I was living in Kentucky, um, because it's like you could see like every one of the seasons in a day. It would be
hmm
like winter cold, and then it'd be like fall, and then it'd be like spring and summer by like mid afternoon, and then it would
Yeah.
just get cold again. It's like the weather here was crazy.
It, it
So
was, and they were prepared for it too, though. Like around here, the East Coast, Virginia, even the east part of North Carolina, people lose their minds when there's like, snow or even a little bit of ice.
yeah,
Out there, everything keeps rolling. We keep moving. It
yeah,
was crazy to me.
yeah. I loved it there. Um, so you got a bunch of skills. You know, you saw firsthand, basically as an entrepreneur and
Mhm.
working with Canon, learning and developing while going to school, and you decided, hey, you know what? I think I want to test my metal, right? And so, what was that leap like? Taking the leap into entrepreneurship, right, and going out on your own. How was that?
Yeah. So, I'd say taking the leap, going from being an employee to being your own boss, right, was the leap. But, to me, I felt like I was just taking the skills that I'd learned at
Mm,
other companies and said, well, rather than trying to get pigeonholed and just helping one company, I want to help more than one company at a time, right?
mm,
I don't want to just, if I only change one life because I worked for one employer for 15, 20, 30 years and that was I feel like I missed the mark versus being in business for myself. I can help 5, 10, 15, 20 companies in a single year or
mm,
more, depending on how I multiply myself, right? So that journey started pretty much. I just started freelancing as a consultant, taking the experience that I learned in manufacturing. I worked for from Virginia to Kentucky to North Carolina. Just worked through manufacturing, so I got a lot of experience of what to do and what not to do, both on the business side but also the leadership side. And so I just took opportunities where people wanted, either they were starting up a business or they were struggling to scale, and I was like, hey, you want me to come in and kind of see what's just wrong, what's broken, and I can give you some suggestions on what to fix.
mm,
Typically it started with processes, right? Systems, easy things. Um, but then I started pivoting to then discuss, well, the owner is the one responsible for the process or the system being the way it is.
Mhm.
Let's work on you now too. So I wouldn't just come in and just work on the process or work on, a boss says, "Hey, I have bad employees." Okay, I'll come in, I'll assess your team, right? A sales team. I have one guy, hey, come check out my sales guys. They're just underperforming. Okay, I'll check them out. And I sat in some sales meetings. And right away I was like, yeah, it's not your guys. It's you. But it takes a while to get to that. And you kind of segue into that conversation to then say, okay, now we got to work on you too. And a lot of times we'll work on both at the same time.
Mhm.
Um, and so I just took it one step at a time. I was like, hey, let's prove this concept. Let me show you what I can do. Give me a chance. That's what a lot of these opportunities came about for me. Someone just gave me a shot, and I dedicated every bit of time and energy I had to make it work. Probably overdid it, right? Kind of like a perfectionist. Um, but it just took off from there, and we just kept growing it after that.
So, I'm curious, when you left and you became your own entrepreneur,
Mhm.
have you already built relationships with different companies to kind of segue, or were you just straight kind of quote unquote door knocking and cold calling and LinkedIn messaging and like trying to get out there just to get one company to say, hey, we'll have you come over and check us out and look at our processes.
Yeah, so it was a combination.
Yeah.
Start with the book of leads you already have in your phone book,
Mhm.
right? The context people already know, people I've already talked to, people that I already knew that are in business or work for a company and they share with me the problems that are going on, right? And then the other side is, yeah, I would just go onto Google and just look for companies that are starting up, look for companies that are hiring people, like a manager or a director, and call them up and email them and say, "Hey, how about you bring someone else in that can kind of be plug and play, look at things from an outside perspective, a holistic perspective, and my success rides on my paycheck, and whether I got a job tomorrow versus directors, managers kind of sit on it, right? So give it a shot." And so I got a couple opportunities with a mix of that strategy.
Okay. Nice, nice. And when you're helping the leader in a holistic mind, body, spirit,
Mhm.
talk about how that process works.
So, like I said, I kind of get my foot in the door by they'll present a problem to me.
Mhm.
I'm like, okay, that's cool. Well, I know that's the picture you see, but I see a lot more,
Mhm.
right? And so we start looking at, okay, well, what's past that, and that comes from having a conversation, right? Getting to talk to them, see how they see things, see how they're analyzing and describing things,
Mhm.
and then I get into, their history because I want to know about them too. I want to know where they've come from. Some of these people I've helped, they've been either serial entrepreneurs or they've been this is their baby, this is their one business they've had for 30, 40 years, and they survived economic downturns and everything else, but they know they got to get smart, and so they start leveraging people like me. So I get to learn more about their history, more about the people that have come in and out of their doors, learn what they think of people, learn what they think of themselves. And of course, a lot of times those conversations, we have these meetings, they go on and on and on. And we start talking about what they had for breakfast, what they had for lunch, what they had for dinner. I share what I, eat, or they're like, "Hey, you look pretty slim. What's your diet?" you know, because they want to lose weight or something like that, get more energy. We'll talk about those things, and we'll talk about what they do outside of work, right?
Mhm.
Their family life. They still got young kids. If everyone's grown up, what they do in their free time. Are they really focused on putting out and giving back, or are they just focused on consuming, consuming, consuming? That's a completely different heart posture that I notice in people, and I can tell. Okay, are you bringing me in the company because you truly want change, or you just want me to take this problem away from you? Do you want to see, like, you want to invest in these people, you want to invest in this company, you want to invest in these processes to change them for the better,
Mhm.
or you just want me to help your profit margins?
I bet it's incredibly common to find people that are just looking for the latter.
Yes.
Yeah.
And a lot of times you got to read between the lines, but some of them are very obvious. Like some don't even care about trying to hide it.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you run into a lot of people that when you start to have the difficult conversations, you start to give them the hard truths, that they're still like, nah, no, this ain't about me, or like, I don't want to, like, they're just like problem, head in the sand,
Hmm.
and avoidant, you know?
Yeah, and I mean, I would say even so, I dabbled in, just from my experience of all my health stuff, I did dabble in being I was a group exercise instructor for a while.
Mm,
I was a kickboxing instructor.
okay.
And so, and I worked for a company for a while in during my transition of getting into being my own boss.
Mhm,
And so I know how to push people. I know how to instruct people. I know how to coach people, right? And push them past their comfort zones and push them to kind of push through that vulnerability, right? And tap into that because on the other side of vulnerability is change.
yes.
And so I had to navigate that in the boardrooms, if you will, in the offices as well, where people are a little bit more comfortable, right? Because they're not up and running and sweating and getting uncomfortable. I'm in their territory right now, right? So I got to get them to be uncomfortable. And so to your point, yeah, there's a times that I would have those come to Jesus meetings and discussions, but I would come at it over time
Mhm,
because I didn't want to kind of just shove it down their throats or shove it in their face or attack them, or preach at them. I wanted them to see the difference in their ways. And so a lot of times, if we could have examples of, I see how they talk to their people, and then I show them how I talk to their people and show the difference, and then discuss with them what they saw, they start seeing, even if they don't admit it, right? They don't say it out loud. They start seeing the difference that there's something inside of them that they have to change. But just like with any habit change, you'll get some people that start getting on board, right? They'll get excited about something and then they'll hit adversity or worse, they'll hit complacency and, comfort. Oh, this feels good enough. And then they're just going to stop and quit. And so that's where we got to turn the pressure back up. And so it's definitely a dance, I guess is a good way to put it.
mhm.
Um, I've found that way sometimes. There's some people that I've had to have that talk of, hey, look, I support you, love you, but I don't think you're meant to be in business for yourself.
Has
And
and what's the what would you say the percentage, and that was gonna be my next question, like,
yeah,
how many people have you worked with where you went in there and you tried and
yep,
they just weren't getting it, and then you eventually had to be like, "Hey, dude, either I can't help you or you weren't built for this,"
yeah,
you know?
yep.
How many people, I say ratio or percentage would you say that
Hmm.
happens to?
Oh man, I mean, I guess too, especially at the beginning, as you learn to weed out some of the lower quality contacts and kind of sift through that stuff and have better pre-qualifiers. Um, you know, because I mean, in my line of work, you kind of have to run into burning buildings. That's the whole point of my line of work.
Yeah,
I would say, man, one out of every three.
okay. That's
Sometimes,
actually still kinda surprising.
yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
some it just depends. Definitely in the beginning, right?
Mm,
Oh yeah, you help business owners, you help people's businesses. Sure, you can help me out, and then come in there and it's just a disaster. And it's like
mm,
you should have never been in business in the first place. And I learned that over time, so I don't get sucked in too far, knowing that I could have never helped them in the first place.
yeah. Yeah, and for the listeners, I think it's important for you to understand, and the point that Clifton and I are kind of dancing about there here is that when it comes to entrepreneurship, right? There's always going to be a percentage of people that aren't going to make it. Okay, it's just the law of averages. It's
Yeah,
just the way things work. And so you'll have the people that will start a business, and when they get a couple of challenges, a couple of hurdles, a large percentage they'll let it crumble them. They'll be like, "Well, I tried, it didn't work out, I wasn't profitable," and they'll go back to being comfortable.
mm,
You'll have some people that will get through those challenges, and they'll make it for a little bit, but they will have some success, and then they'll get complacent.
mm,
And then they'll just kind of ride that success and that complacency for a long time. And they may not lose their business right away, but their
yeah,
business won't grow either. And like we mentioned at the beginning, if you're not growing, you're dying. If your business is the same way, if your business isn't growing, it's dying
100%.
slowly,
Yeah,
but it's dying. And and then you'll have a very, very, very small percentage of people that realize that it's not just it's a multitude of a lot of different things,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
It's doing the hard work. It's, trying to always better yourself. It's being the example. It's staying up with current trends, depending upon what industry you're in and trying to stay ahead
Hmm.
of the game. But it's also just working through the monotonous,
Yeah.
doing the mundane stuff that at first you get excited because you're like, oh yeah, I gotta be kind to people and and come into work and park at the furthest spot even though I'm the boss to show people that I'm not special, and walk in with a smile on my face and take 15 minutes to just say hi and shake hands and be intentional, right? And then eventually they'll be like, I'm busy,
Mm.
and they'll be
Yep.
like, I don't got time for that, and
Slippery slope.
they'll just go straight to their office, right? But that kind of stuff really matters. And it's the
Yeah.
intentionality of doing it day in and day out, day in and day out, without fail, that it sometimes it gets kind of mundane. It's just like it's those small mundane things that actually move the needle and build up momentum over time. And that's where people get comfortable because they stop doing the mundane things, or they just think that they have a little bit of success. They're thinking like, oh, I don't have to do that anymore. And it's
Mm.
almost like it's
Yeah.
almost subconscious.
Yeah. Yeah. It goes to your head. You're a
Yeah.
little prideful.
Yeah. And then everything starts to slip. So I love that we're pointing this out and like how you identify this,
Hmm.
when you're coming in and doing this assessment with these teams and throughout the assessment and as
Oh
you're
yeah.
trying to help the leaders.
Yeah. I mean, it's constant data mining, really. Like, I mean, if I got to have like a videographer follow me all day long and get a transcript of everything that I'm hearing, but everything I'm also thinking, right? Because they're going to say something, but I'm also thinking something else and jotting that down in my notes, right? Because I'm making these correlations. I'm like a professional dot connector, I guess you can say. That's what I'm doing. But yeah, to your point, I'd say yeah, comfort can be a silent, slow killer,
Mhm.
and it gets so many off guard. And pride is the next biggest thing that can knock you down.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, Comfort is the biggest one I think in business that I've noticed.
Oh
It's
yeah,
happened it's happened to me too. There's been times where I've gotten comfortable and then something comes up and bites me in the
tempting.
ass. And then I'm like, "I didn't see that coming. Shit." And then it kinda it's for me, it's almost like the universe reminding me like, "Dude, you can't stop on your journey of trying to always get better and being out front and leading by example, like, you can't stop."
Yeah, you can't.
And so it's once you start this, and that's kind of, hey, that's what it takes to be great at anything. I don't care if you're an entrepreneur. I don't care if you want to be the next spiritual leader of the world. If you want to be recognized as the greatest parent in the United States ever, like whatever it is, right? It's gonna take, it's a journey of daily grinding and
Yeah.
doing your best, and it doesn't end. There
It
is
doesn't.
no end to that road
Nope.
until you die. So so when people see that, they're like, "Man, I'd rather just go sit on the couch and watch Netflix," right?
Mhm. Yep, they
So
deprioritized it.
absolutely. Absolutely. Um, I'm digging this conversation, Clifton. I love this.
Yeah.
This is a lot. This reminds me a lot of what I mean. I do fitness coaching and nutrition coaching, but really that's just the gateway to like a spiritual, mental, and physical alignment within your life,
Yes.
and realizing the power of just physical fitness on a daily basis, what it can do for you. Like physical fitness is mental fitness, period. And
100%.
then when you really start to be intentional about your physical fitness and your mental fitness, how it also increases your spiritual fitness as well. And you start to realize, because you start to get progress brings joy, right?
Mhm.
And as you get progress, you start to realize, like, man, I have more capable within me. I have
Mm,
more that I
yeah.
can do, right? And that belief almost flips the switch that you start to have, you start to have faith in
Yep.
yourself. So that
Yep.
belief, right?
See a whole 'nother horizon.
Yeah, and then you're just like, "What's possible?" Right?
Uh-huh.
It's like the man's search for meaning, like, "What all can I do?" you
Mhm.
know? And it's if you do it the right way, it's powerful, but it has to be very intentional. You can't just go to the gym every single day and just be like, guys, go to the gym and lift and that's whatever, and like and not think about it. It's not that simple, right? There's
Yeah.
an intentionality behind it. It's like being intentional about your daily actions. It's being like I read daily. I watch everything that I eat. I'm the same way. I watch everything that I eat. I log every single I weigh
Mhm.
out all my food, and people are like, that's really insane. It's like, is it though? Like, like, like I would want to know how much of what I'm eating. Like it's not,
Yeah.
and it doesn't take that much time. So,
Yep.
people are like, I don't got the time for that. Really? Because I saw that you were just posting about binge watching entire series
Uh-huh.
on Netflix. Like, you don't got the time for that? Like, it takes me
Yeah.
10 seconds because I have my scale right there to weigh out how much chicken I'm gonna eat. Like, it's not that hard, man. So,
Well, especially Greg, like what you're saying too, especially with being parents, right? And being
yeah,
fathers,
yeah,
right? And being the examples in the household, especially for our sons, other guys that are going to be men someday that possibly will be fathers themselves and lead the next generation is same thing to your point. My decision to eat crappy and then tell my son I don't have the energy to play with him or I'm in a bad mood is selfish.
yes.
It's 100% selfish. And I tell myself that every day. And to back to your point about really taking time with the monotonous activities and being intentional about it is actually something to be grateful for.
Mhm.
Because how many people can't do this boring thing that I'm doing right now of going to the gym and lifting weights that other people physically can't even do that or they don't have the time because they're working 2 or 3 jobs, right? And they're taking care of 5 kids on their own and they're having to go to night school and they're trying to get out of this amount of debt to say that, "Well, I'm just gonna go and just do my reps and go home," sit on the bench half the time watching TikTok or something anyways and
Yeah,
wasting a seat.
yeah.
It's like you gotta be grateful, and then you gotta be selfless in the fact that the choices you make just like, anyone that has an addiction, right? I've had addictions. I've had to get through addictions in my past. Your addiction does not just affect you. It affects others. And we can say big, unhealthy like drug addictions, alcohol addictions, gambling addictions, all the way down to I'd rather watch Netflix than, go work out or read a book.
And that is just as much of an addiction that people don't realize.
Oh, yes. Oh, 100%.
Like,
Sit there on the phone.
overconsumption of media,
Yeah.
whether it's TV, streaming services, fucking football season,
Yeah.
um,
Yep.
yeah, or just your phone and just sitting on I know people that'll be like, they'll just be constantly, like, sending me funny TikToks, and they'll
Mhm.
send me, like, literally, like, 20 days,
Oh, yeah.
like,
I gotta
how do
mute
you
those
have
people.
the
Yeah, I
time?
can't do it. I mute them. I can't.
How do you have the time to watch and scroll through
Yep.
TikTok that long? Like, "Oh, dude, this stuff's so funny, I love this." I'm like, I literally never go on TikTok unless I'm posting something, but I don't watch anybody's shit on TikTok, like nobody's.
Yeah,
I post and I get
exactly.
off just to like
See
put out
see the deal or
some
nothing, you
value
sir.
out there.
Yep.
It's
Yeah.
like, man, it's insane to me.
It's frustrating, it's upsetting because, like, to your point, even if I were to get on there and watch something for even a split second, I just feel like I've just lost all motivation, all
Mhm,
energy, right? Like, the first thing when I wake up, my phone's still in, like, this sleep mode until a certain time of day.
mhm,
The screen won't come back up, like, I can't do anything except silence my alarm. Because I know I had to get away from this addiction of opening my phone, checking my messages, getting on social media, to feel this high, to feel this happiness. When instead I get up, I open my Bible, I stretch, I get my breakfast going, handmade breakfast, right?
yep,
Fresh.
yep,
I take the time, I've added time in my morning to do that. And what a world of difference it makes in my mindset, just getting in the car and driving to work, right? I'm not rushing. I'm not pushing the clock trying to get there last minute, getting pissed off at everybody else, slowing me down on the road, all because I made this choice that, you know what? This is not worth it to me because it's affecting all these other people negatively around me. And that's a choice I'm well aware of. I've just got to put myself aside and know that there's something better I could be doing and be grateful for that. And so yeah, it's a vicious cycle, just kind of like what you're going back to saying about business owners, right? And talking about their mind, body, spirit and their diet. But yeah, I get to learn real quick about their their
I bet
intake,
you could
the
tell them
consuming.
you could tell what their home life's like. I bet when you see them at work all the time, you see how they are with people. You can be like, you can just know exactly what they're like at home, what they're
Yep.
like with their families.
Yep.
You know.
Yep. Yeah. You can see the fruit of people just by the way they how they value things,
Mhm.
right? And what they share with you in passerby. And some clients will have, holidays and whatnot. I'll host a lunch or something for them, and so we're sitting there not talking about business. I'm the quiet guy in the corner, just kind of listening to their conversations and stepping in when I want to join.
Mhm.
And I learn really quickly what people value and what they pass off.
Mhm. Yeah. Biggest lie that I think that people tell themselves and tell others is I don't got the time.
Yep.
That is the absolute biggest lie that every single person I've ever heard. And when I hear people say that, I want to laugh in their face and be like, dude, if I had a camera that followed you from the time that you woke up until the time that you went to bed
Yeah.
and we played it like a
Boom.
movie, guess what?
Mm.
I'm sure we would find plenty of time in there that you wasted,
Yes.
bro. Because don't tell me that you don't have the time.
No.
Not when there's people not when we have people like Elon Musk. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
he has the same 24 hours a day that we do. And like
Exactly.
anybody could have been him.
Yep.
He was the one that did the work, right?
Correct.
And so it's just like anybody could have done it. And if anyone's like, oh, well, I couldn't have done that, it's like, well, you could have, but you saying you couldn't have, yeah, you're not
Hmm.
going to, but the potential is within everybody, and everyone's potential is unknown and unlimited. If you want to tap into it and you want to do the work, that's that journey we talked about, that
Yep.
never-ending journey of this daily greatness, right? And the other thing I want to talk about is as a parent, um, I realized in the past year that I was previously in past years,
Hmm.
I was a bad father in
Hmm.
terms of I was in my phone a lot.
Yeah.
I was absent when I was with the kids. I wasn't
Hmm.
all there. I wasn't fully present. Wasn't intentional.
Yeah.
I was eating shit foods. I was drinking a lot. And I was a bad example. And I didn't think I was a bad example at the time. At no point did I think during doing this, did I feel bad? I'm like, oh, I'm doing the wrong thing. But do as I say, not as I do kind of thing,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
I was just like, I'm an adult. Like I can drink. I'm an adult. I can eat what I want. Like that's is just the way that I
I've
thought.
earned it.
I've earned it. Yeah. Yeah. But but um when I got in my like, hey, I'm not drinking anymore. I start reading every day. I work out all the time. I start watching what I eat, and I eat very clean, and I make all my food. Well, when my kids come to visit me, because they live in Tampa and I live in Texas, and they live with their mother. When they come to visit me, and they come to stay with me like on summers, long breaks, stuff like that. Like they were just here for Christmas,
Yep.
and what happens is that they want to eat all the food that I eat,
Mm.
and then they want to go on runs with me. They're going on runs with me, and
Yeah.
want to go to the gym with me. And when I'm sitting down and reading, you know what they do? They're like, "Do you have an extra book?" I do,
Mhm.
and they're reading. And I'm not telling them to do it.
Right.
I'm not saying you guys should do this because I'm doing it.
Yeah. Intrinsically, they are a.
They just naturally do it. So those parents that are out there that are like, I could never eat that. My kid won't eat that. They follow you.
Yeah.
You don't follow them. They aren't the
Who
leader
runs the
of the
house?
family.
Mhm.
You've got the roles reversed there. Okay. My kids would never eat that. You know why they would never eat that? Because you never eat that.
Yep.
And you're blaming your kids now. That's lazy and it's selfish. Right?
Cop out.
You start doing that, I promise you, your kids gonna be like, hey, you look happier. Because your mind's gonna be clear, you're gonna be happier, you're gonna have more energy, you're gonna be more attentive, and know what they're gonna notice that, and they're gonna want to be around that. You're gonna
Yeah.
lead by example. And they're gonna say, let me do that too. Right. And my kids did. And when my kids started doing this, my kids started drinking celery juice, bro. I hate celery juice, but I drank it anyways, right?
Right.
Because it's healthy.
Yeah.
And so they saw me drinking. They're like, why do you drink that? And I was like, well, because it's healthy. And they're like, what does it taste like? I'm like, honestly, it tastes like shit. Like I
Yeah.
don't, I don't like it at all, but I just chug it. I'm doing it because of the health benefits, and I want to be healthy and have energy for a long time. So I spend my life with you guys, right? But I don't do it because it tastes good, right?
Right.
And you know what they said? They're like, can you make some for us? I'm like, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
And they choked it down.
Yes.
And every day after that, you know what they do when they're with me? They're like, hey, can you make me some more sausages every single day? And they
Yes.
choke it down
Love it.
because I do it. Because they're like, well, daddy does it. I want to be like him, right?
Yep.
And it's those simple things. And if you can do that as a parent, you can do that as a leader in a business. And you do that as a leader in a business, you can do that in all areas of your life.
Ripple
Right?
effect.
It
Yeah.
is absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. I've always joked that, with my son, especially the weekends, like I meal prep, for the whole work week, everything's ready to go. I just throw it in my backpack after I made it over the weekend, right? But
Mm.
the weekend's kind of where I take some time off to kind of slow down on making meals. We'll still make some meals, but usually for like a lunch, right? Especially on Sunday after the morning, I'm just like, I don't want to make anything. I'm just going to make a smoothie, right? And so I'll throw together my whole smoothie. And when he was one, when he was two, didn't think anything of it. He just thought the thing was loud, right? But then one day I'm just sitting there and he's looking. He's like, "What do you have?" I'm like, "This is my smoothie." He's eating his lunch, whatever. He's like, "Can I have a sip?" And I give him a sip. He's like, "Can I have some?" I'm like, "Sure." So I pour him a cup. And then next thing you know, every time that, he comes in the kitchen, he sees my protein container. He's like, "Can I have a smoothie? Can I have a smoothie?" I'm like, "Hey, I'd rather you have that than chips
Yeah.
and mac and cheese all the time." And yeah, I'm like, "Let's do it. It's expensive, but I'd rather you have that than constantly having sugary drinks and salty snacks the moment you come home."
And it's laying the small seeds, the small foundational basis
Yep.
for him to be a man,
Yep.
for him to be a
For him to
healthy,
make good choices.
conscious, make good decisions, be a man,
Yep.
right? And I
Yeah.
think that's what we're missing a lot in our society today.
Oh yeah.
A lot.
Yeah. Well, like you were saying, right? The celery juice doesn't taste good, but there are health benefits to it,
Mm,
right? It's
yeah.
giving up the short-term benefit for the long-term reward,
Mhm.
and it's that sacrifice that pays dividends down the road. Most people are not patient enough and too selfish, because we're all that way. We have those issues, right? Of not waiting, not delaying that gratification,
Mhm.
or something you may not see or feel like you would the rush of sugar, the rush of alcohol, the rush of salt, but over time it will be more sustainable, right?
Mhm.
Kind of like having a good night's rest rather than chugging 2 cups of coffee first thing in the morning. You're going to have energy, but it's going to be a hard crash, and you're probably going to be jittery the whole time.
Yeah.
Versus waking up, having a routine, you're going to have more clarity, you're going to have more energy, and it's going to be smooth and more sustainable. And that's the same thing that I show him. If he wakes up before I wake him up, he comes in my room, he sees me sitting down reading. Like, what are you doing? I was like, I'm reading. This is what I do when I wake up. You don't see it. We read when we go to bed. We read after dinner,
Mhm.
but I read when I wake up too.
Yeah.
And so he's watching that. He's going to learn from that too, I'm sure.
And those are like that's powerful as a dad that you're doing that. That he sees you doing that because it's
Yeah.
setting in him the foundations of what he's going to end up doing, right?
Yep.
Like I gave my kids like adult books. I mean, my oldest son's 13, my younger one's 9, but they were reading like actual books. It
Hmm.
wasn't like I can almost imagine now that someone that had a 9-year-old, if they gave them a book, it would be something with like pictures or like,
Hmm.
you know, it probably at the height of it would maybe be like a Harry Potter book, but this was like a personal development book.
Yeah.
Like,
Nice.
this was like an actual book. That was a
Yes.
small one. It was a thinner one. It wasn't very thick. It was probably like 120 pages. It wasn't a lot, but I
Yeah.
was like, hey, just read 10 pages a day, brother.
There you go.
10 pages a day. That's it. And it took him like 30 minutes. It's like, it's not that hard, right? No. And then afterwards, I'm like, hey, what'd you learn? What'd you read today? And then he
Yep.
would just sit there and tell me, oh, I talked to like this, blah, 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 blah. And then like the book he's reading it was one of Ed Milet's book. I don't know if you know what Ed Milet is.
Mhm. Yeah,
Uh,
know the name.
yeah. So
Yeah.
then we're listening to the podcast. I was playing the podcast and I was just playing it. He's like, Daddy, hey, he's the guy the book I'm reading, right? And I was like, yeah, it's him. He's like, he does a podcast too. I was like, yeah, this is his podcast. It's really good. He was like, oh man. So he's sitting there listening, and he's like, oh, Dad, he talks about this in his book. Oh, and he
Mhm.
starts, and he's like putting these
Connecting
things
the
together. And
dots.
he's so excited, and it's from listening to like a personal development podcast because that's what when I'm in the car, I listen to podcasts. I don't listen to
Yeah.
music or I listen to audiobooks.
Hmm.
And
Yep.
then that and like linking that to a book. Like I don't know many kids out there that are doing that, and it's
That
to
means he
me
really was retaining what was in the book
exactly.
to be able to connect those dots. Yeah.
Exactly, and I think it's very powerful, and here's the thing, like, anybody could do this.
Hmm.
Like, I'm not special.
No. Yeah, we're not.
We're not special, like,
Yeah.
anybody can do this, and, like, I think there's more of a pride, like, I'm way more prideful about that that my sons are doing that, I'm very proud of them,
Yeah.
and if, like, they were on their iPad all day, and then they're like, "Dad, I unlocked this thing in Candy Crush, like, I beat this level," like
Yeah.
or Roblox,
Hmm.
which they usually play sometimes, but, like, I'm way more proud that they're doing that kinda stuff, and it's just like that, like, warms my heart.
Yep.
So,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we have to push ourselves though too, right? Because if you were just to sit down and be on your phone,
mhm.
what's to say they can't sit there and be on their iPad?
Absolutely, yeah, no, and now they'll call me out on it, like, um, at the dinner table, I'll be like, "Hey, no devices, like, we're gonna sit here
Hmm.
and we're gonna eat and talk and have a good time," and I had my phone that was in my pocket, and someone called me.
Hmm.
And I pulled out and looked, and I went to go answer it, and it was for work, and my son was like, "Daddy, no devices at the table," and I was
No
like,
device.
Shit, you're right." I was like, "You know what? Good call, buddy.
Good call.
Good call. I appreciate that. You calling me out."
Good looking out. Yeah.
You know? It's like I
Keep each
wasn't
other in check.
like, I just did it, like, it was almost
It's
like
instinctual.
instinctual,
Yeah.
you know?
Hmm.
But he was right, but instead of getting mad and yelling, but "Hey, you know what? No," I was just like, "You know what, buddy? You're
Right.
absolutely right. I'll call
Yep.
them back when we're
Yeah.
done."
Yep. Yeah. Exactly. Not getting defensive about it.
Yeah, and so but now he's like but I like that he's that comfortable,
Yes.
that he can do that. He's not afraid of, like, getting yelled at or being like, "Oh, well, dad won't listen anyways." Like, I want
Hmm.
him to know that, like, "Hey, if you disagree with something, speak up, right?
Yeah.
It's fine."
Man, that's the kind of stuff we need with the businesses, with the business owners. The
Yes.
employees get scared. They don't think they can speak up to their bosses, and they have good reason sometimes once I learn about those bosses and the way they would respond. It's
Absolutely.
unfortunate. But yeah, it ultimately starts in the home because the way you treat people behind closed doors affects the way you treat people in public.
Yeah. How you do one thing is how you do all things.
Yeah. Can't hide it for long.
You can't. You just can't. I love this. So, Clifton, I appreciate, man. This has been a great conversation. I know we kind of just went off the rails there at the end, just talking about family stuff.
All holistic, man. It all comes together.
It all comes together. Yeah, that's why I like this. This has been a great
Good.
conversation. Um, if anybody listens to this and they want to learn more about you and they just want to understand more about holistic healing and a little bit about your journey, what's the best place that they can reach out to you?
I mean, the best place that they can reach out to engage with me
Mhm.
is LinkedIn. It's where
Okay.
one of the biggest places I'm active on sharing my thoughts, engaging with others that I feel like have are really speaking out about change.
Yeah.
And so LinkedIn, it's Clifton S. Savage. So my middle name is Scott. Clifton S. Savage. But of course, if they want to learn more about my business and all my happenings, what I've been doing, and reach to me via email or phone, they can find that on my website, which is Service Leaders with an S Society.com. Service Leaders Society.
Okay. Service Leaders Society in Clifton S. Savage on
Mm-hmm.
LinkedIn. I like it. I like it.
Sure.
And the last question I ask all my guests is you have the opportunity to sit with, learn from, have a conversation with, break bread with any three individuals in history, alive or deceased.
Mm.
Who would they be and why?
Oh man, three. Well, I know number one would be like Abraham Lincoln.
Oh, I like that one. Yeah.
A
That's good.
guy who had to there's literally a book out by Doris Kearns Goodwin, and it's like a thick, like, I don't know, 800-page book, and I've read that thing a couple times, mostly to help me go to sleep at night, but it was a great read nonetheless. Found it when I went to Washington, D.C. back in 2011,
Mm,
and I've read it multiple times, and it's called Team of Rivals, and it's about how Abraham Lincoln brought his rivals that were trying to hold him back and pull him down all the way through the elections to actually become part of his his cabinet, part of his team in the presidency, and what he was doing and the thoughts that he went through and his habits, his disciplines, his reading, his writing. There's so much in that book, and so I would definitely love to pick his brain and kind of learn his habits and learn his thoughts if I had the chance.
Yeah, that's a good one. I really like that one.
Number two, a lot of people may know about this guy, Jocko Willink.
I
Um,
haven't heard him, but he's a good one.
he's a good one,
Yeah.
and I didn't hear about him until someone referred me to his books, Extreme Ownership and the
Yep. And,
Dichotomy of
and
Leadership.
Dichotomy of Leadership is really good.
Yes,
Yeah.
and
They're
those
both
are
great. They're both
powerful.
great.
Yeah, I listen to the audiobooks while I was, going to the gym, working out and running, and I've listened to them multiple times, and I mean, just really powerful stuff. But learning from a perspective from someone that went through what they went through,
Mhm.
in not only war but leading other men and women and the battles that they fought, and then bringing that back home and trying to learn how to continue to serve people and continue to help improve and change. um, that would be someone I'd love to sit down with.
Yeah.
And then number three, off the top of my head, you know I mean, definitely even like Jesus. That's a good
Yeah.
one, right? It's just got so much wisdom. I mean, if you read the, like the New Testament in the Bible and like listen to his disciples, like they have no clue what he's talking about. Like it's way over the top of their heads. Like they didn't get it for, years, right? And so I know I would be very humbled in that conversation, but I feel like that would be an experience to just be around that persona and
Yeah.
the peace that he had and just the perspective that he has, and just being around a positive influence like that would be um you know really cool.
It's I don't know if you've ever heard of the term called spiral dynamics.
I don't think I have.
It is the concept of the elevation of human consciousness.
Mm,
And it talks about like the science behind it and like how there's levels along this spiral as like
mhm,
as individuals elevate their consciousness. They get
mm,
different levels and they basically open up different parts of the brain. They're able to
right.
affect more people and stuff like that. And so I think that probably we could all agree that um that probably Jesus was the only one to reach a certain level of the consciousness if you look at the spiral dynamics model.
Yeah.
And what happens is that if you reach a certain level of consciousness and you can help other people reach that certain level as well, it becomes like a trickle down effect where everybody gets to raise consciousness. Okay.
Yes.
And so, or like the masses do. Okay. Because we're all interconnected. Right. And so I feel like he was at such a high level of consciousness that like what he was saying made complete sense to him. And he's just like, dude,
Yes.
I don't know why you guys don't get this. Like, just like it just is, right?
Yeah.
And everyone's like, what the hell is this guy
Is
saying? Like,
he?
I know it's profound, but I don't know what.
Yeah. Anybody else?
Yeah. So that and he probably asked just a lot of questions. Like you'd ask a question,
Yes.
he'd be like, he would return it with the question, and you'd just be
Yes.
like, oh shit, like
Yes. He's not giving you the answer that easy.
because it's like, dude, all the answers are within you.
Yeah. It's like a good teacher, right? They wouldn't
Yeah,
just give you the answer.
yeah,
They wanted you to figure it out. That's how you became more equipped
yeah.
to really do it on your own.
Absolutely, absolutely. Those are very thoughtful. I love all three of those. So thank you so much, Clifton, for coming on the
Yes.
show. This was a great conversation. For those of you watching and you watch until now, then you obviously got some value. So do me a favor. Go give Clifton a follow on LinkedIn and give him some love on some of his posts. And if you like this podcast, if you got any value from it, then share it with another person that can also get value from it. Pay it forward, right?
Yeah.
Takes you 30 to 60 seconds to rate, review, subscribe, or share, but it means the world to both Clifton and myself. This has been the Be the Difference podcast. I'm your host, Greg Birch. Until next time, we'll see you.